Hello dears, welcome back or welcome to this new video. For those who don't know me, I'm Filippo Italiano. Check out the channel if you're discovering me now. You will find various videos ranging from teaching. You will find many videos where I sing, where I play, so I bring my music. You can subscribe to the channel to access exclusive content, for example, a section in which we talk about improvisation. I also do a lot of live broadcasts, so check out the channel. If you like the channel, if you like the videos, the first thing I invite you to do is subscribe and leave a like. It's a small gesture to support the activity I do. In this video, we talk about scales, how to visualize the major scale on the guitar. So what do we see in this video? Let's see how the major scale is shown on the guitar through the CAGED system. It's a very practical way to see the major scales that you're interested in at each point on the neck. But let's start by defining what a major scale is. A major scale, or rather the major scale par excellence, because we could have many major scales, because if there's an interval of a major third, we can already define that it's a major scale. However, the one that's commonly called the major scale, which in the modal system is also called the Ionian mode. For example, if we say a song is in D major, that song will have melodies that move with the notes of the D major scale. So, having said that, we should understand each other. So, the major scale is nothing more than the succession of this pattern of tones and semitones. In our musical system, we know that the smallest distance between sounds is the semitone. If we take the piano keyboard, the smallest distance you can make is the semitone. Then if we take instruments like vocals or string instruments or even the guitar, if for example we do bends, or if we take a keyboard, modern keyboards can make sounds that are kind of equivalent to bending on the guitar. We can still use intervals smaller than the semitone, but at the level of theory or mathematics, of mathematical rules that make our musical system work, the smallest interval we consider is the semitone. So the major scale is a succession of tones and semitones. To form a major scale, all we have to do is follow the pattern tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. This is one thing you can first see on the piano keyboard. If you take and play the C major scale, so you're only going to play the white keys, you can see how very clear this sequence is. Precisely because you only play white keys, so you will see that the semitone is only between E and F and B and C. This is the point in our system that is called the tempered system. It is the point where there is no black key, so between E and F there is a semitone. Because between C and C sharp, to go to C sharp, I have to do the black key. Well, if we do a major scale and play the C scale, we'll just play white keys, and then we'll see that I start from C, tone I go to D, tone I go to E, semitone I go to F, then tone, 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 semitone. That's how I did the C scale. And this thing is very clear. If we now play the D scale, keeping this tone, tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone scheme, accidentals come out. This is why in keys other than C, there are sharps or flats. Simply for this reason, because in order for the scale to be a major scale, to respect this pattern of tones and semitones, alterations come out. Let's jump into a practical example right away. I start with D whole step and I move to E whole step and I move to F sharp, not F natural. If I go for F natural, I am not following the whole step pattern, but I am following whole step, half step. It's a different scale, so to construct the D major scale, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. In this way, I respected the whole step, half step, whole step, half step pattern. If I construct the E major scale, even more accidentals come out. So E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Then the accidentals are symbolized by the famous circle of fifths. But simply the accidentals appear because, to respect this pattern of whole steps and half steps, we need the accidentals to maintain that distance that forms the major scale. Let me give you another example. If I go to D and do D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, thus I only played white keys, it's clearly another scale, which is the D Doric scale, and we'll see it in another video. To be major, remember that the pattern must be tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, and thus we come up with F sharp and C sharp. So this is what we can say theoretically about what a major scale is. I really wanted to explain this thoroughly because it's something that I realize people who have been playing for a lifetime haven't understood yet. They didn't understand why G has F sharp, why D has F sharp and C sharp for this reason, because to be a major scale, to have that pattern of tones and semitones, which we said is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, we need those accidentals. To be F major, we need the B flat. So the F major is said to have B flat in its key for this reason. This then leads to when we harmonize the scale. I've also spoken about scale harmonization in other videos. The chords that are produced have the tones that the scale has. For example, the D major scale will have D major on the first degree, or D major 7 if we harmonize it in 4 voices. Then we will have E minor 7th. Then we will have F sharp minor 7th, because the D major scale has the notes D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So I'll have an F sharp minor, then I'll have a G major 7, then I'll have an A 7th, then I'll have a B minor 7th, then I'll have a C sharp diminished half. The 2 alterations, F sharp and C sharp, then emerge as a chord. And I've talked about how scales are harmonized in other videos. Let's see how to visualize the major scale through the 5 CAGED positions. It's just a visualization method. We're talking about visualization even today, which is how to locate where the major scale is on the keyboard. This isn't a lesson on how to improvise. I want to be clear about that because there are many videos always insisting use this scale for this chord. That's not enough. You may see the major scale and know how to conjure melodies or improvise, but transitioning from doing a scale on a chord to creating a solo, to composing, to creating a theme, to forming melodies that work, which are music, there's a world of difference. That's why this is a starting point to understand where you need to place your fingers, which is crucial, because if you don't, in other words, if you don't know where the musical elements are located, you already lose a lot of energy just for that. So this creates a solid foundation for you to see the major scale, which you can utilize as a tonal center. You can also use the fingerings of the major scale for the modes. We'll talk in other videos about how the modes are recalled by the chords. It's not that there's a fingering for each mode, so if we talk about the modes of the major scale, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, these 7 modes within a fingering where you see the major scale, you have all 7 modes. Then depending on the chord that's there, you make the correct deductions, and what you'll play will be fine for that harmony. We'll see this in other videos, the talk about how to apply modes, but you have the modes in these fingerings. As well as this fingering, you can alter it. For instance, if you only alter the third, making the major become minor, you get the melodic minor. So it's not that you have to go memorize 5 new boxes for the melodic minor. You simply find where the third is in these boxes and you shift it 1 fret down. First, here is the melodic minor and therefore all the modes of the melodic minor as well. I consider this a really practical approach. So CAGED, which is C, A, G, E, and D. So the succession is always through these forms. C in the form of C, C in the form of A, C in the form of G, C in the form of E, and C in the form of D. This applies to all chords. You can take them in these 5 forms. Every time you see a chord, a form of this chord, you know that there is its fingering of the chord, scale. So if we take the C shape, let's not play the C in first position because some of the notes are left open. It's not a problem. But for fingering purposes, it's better to take the positions where we have the barre. So D in the C shape, I take a D with the C shape, that I have the fingering of the major scale in the C shape. So then it's also important to get used to seeing the intervals within these shapes to create a more coherent vision. So this is already a way to extend the scale from here to here because I see it both here and there, so I can do this. Then I can go on. Here I went in the form of G, because after the A comes the G, which is G, because caged, caged. So the third is the letter G, which is the G. So here I have the D in form of G, and here I have the fingering of the form of G. That's when I went back to the G form. I'm back here. So knowing the succession of the different shapes of the caged also allows you to extend the scale across the fretboard. After the form of G, if we stay in D, so D in the form of C, D in the form of A, D in the form of G, we have the D in the form of E, D in the form of E, which has this fingering. So whenever you have a chord in the form of E, say G sharp in the form of E, the exact same fingering that I did here for the D, I do it here at the 4th fret. Why? Because at the 4th fret, if this string has a tonic, and now let's also explain this very practical thing that I always recommend. After the E form is the D form. And here's its scale in the D form. You can already see that it's necessary to learn the notes on the 6th and 5th strings at least. Because if you know the notes on the 6th and 5th strings, the notes are to be learned on the whole fretboard, and perhaps you should start from a first neck range to learn all the chromatic notes. So E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and so on, all the strings. It's done gradually, and then you extend it to the whole fretboard. But it's essential to start to have some basic understanding of the guitar and not just go to memorize positions, that's all. Knowing the notes on the 6th and 5th strings. If you know the notes on the 6th and 5th strings, you can take advantage of the E shape on the 6th string. You can take advantage of the tonic that you see on the 6th string. For example, you need a G. You see that there's the G on the 6th string, 3rd fret, and here you can do a G in the form of E. You can do MAJ7, you can do G7, G7, all you need. So I recommend in a very practical way that you get used to the 6th string as the first thing to see the E shape, then identify the note you need an A. Where is the A? 6th string, 5th fret. Here you can do the chord as we saw earlier for the G, and also the scale. Okay, so E shape on the 5th string, A form, you need the D. Where is the D on the 5th string? The D is also on the 6th string, 10th fret, okay? Always the shape of E. Let's go to the 5th string with the A shape. Where's the D at the 5th fret? A shape is its choral. So in a moment you visualize what you need, then reason what note you need. Where do I see it? On the 6th or 5th string, and then you adjust accordingly, okay? This is extremely useful if you're playing in a song that has, I don't know, a tonal center of A major. So if it's a song in the key of a major, you can find where the A major scale is. Find A on the guitar, 6th string, 5th fret. Here you can see the A major scale. These are all notes that you can use. Then you will start after this first step of creating the E shape on the 6th string and the A shape on the 5th string to see which shape comes next and which shape comes first. Here you have extended the scale according to the CAGED system operation. Do you know what comes before the E shape, which is the letter E before E? It's G, because in CAGED before E comes G, so form of G, after E comes D, so form of D. So if I'm here in the E shape, in this position I have the E shape. Extending to the left is the G shape. So this is the G shape, the D shape that comes later. So from here I see that the scale continues here as well. So you've already covered a lot of fingerboard ranges. This applies to all keys, so you'll reason where you have the tonic, what form you're taking. If you're on the 6th, you take the E form first. First it's the G form. After that's the D form. If you're on the 5th string, for example D and A form, we're at the 5th fret as tonic. First thing, what will you have? Caged. Before the A there is the C. After the A there is the G. Then G. So you will have first the form of C, and after the form of G, then of G, then shape of A, shape of C. And I went back in the form of C. I fell back into the form of A. I can make a note here on the fingering 2 and then continue on the other one, then on the D form and continue on the C form as well. So I could do this. I've always done the Doric scale. Thus, forget this notion that the box has to be associated with a modal scale because you have all the modal scales in every single box. So erase this idea. There's no specific box for a modal scale, just as there's no specific box for any scale. This is simply like the interval system of the major scales, so tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone spreads across the entire keyboard. And in a very practical way, we see it with the shapes of the key. The fact is, you need to learn to visualize these patterns because they will be useful both as a major scale to work with the notes of a tonal center. For example, if we are in D major, you would use the D major scale as a tonal center. I repeat, it will not be enough for you to play the D scale even if you see it perfectly on the entire keyboard. That won't be enough then to be a good improviser, to be able to do solos, to compose, to make music. In short, that is the real work, as I told you even before learning to make music. And this is the subject of other videos. Here we learn to visualize, which is very important. And it is an important start that needs to be made. Now I want to explain a little bit how I use fingerings, how I put my fingers. In short, let's look at them in relation to the G. So we make a bit of an analogy with the method we can say is more classic of the 5 fingerings. So we start like the first box from the G, which is simply a box that I see here with the G and the E form. I could make even the G and the G form, which here, in short, in the first position, I would have some empty notes. We work better with the Barretts because that's what allows you then move all over the fretboard, the chords, and see the fingerings. So G in the form of E, I practically put one finger per fret. So all the notes that will be on that fret will always be played by that finger. So I have the middle finger on the tonic, therefore in this case G, 6th string 3rd fret, therefore G with the middle finger, the second note, therefore the A I go to play it with the little finger because it jumps 2 frets on the next fret. There's the ring finger that I will use later, therefore the 7th. Therefore, as you can see, each finger is positioned on a fret and always plays the note that is on that fret. This is how I play it. Then there are those who get used to playing with 3 fingers and therefore they will do this. I mean, it's not that it's wrong if you like it better that way. I love to use all 4 fingers, but neither one nor the other is mandatory. Everyone finds the way they think best. So I finger them like this. So it's important within the boxes to identify the tonic you're interested in. Here I have the G scale. If I complete the whole box, I can descend down there and then I'll see, as before, the index as the box's first finger. So they'll be like that. Then I have to change the fret. I always go with the index, so I always have the tonic with the middle finger, and I always continue with the same pattern of 1 finger per fret. I continue to move forward. Form of C of G, and I have the pinky on the tonic and still 1 finger per fret. When I get here, I always have my middle finger as a starting point on the tonic. When I go to this one, I start playing it with my index finger, and then I will have this note that is a B 2 frets later. I play it with my ring finger, then I go back to the G, putting my pinky on it. Once you understand the mechanisms and learn the geometry, it becomes very simple. This thing requires practice. I don't think about it anymore. The fingers move on their own, so then the fingers will move on their own without even looking. This is a very practical method for visualizing scales anywhere on the neck and always seeing what you need in a very practical way. I hope this video is helpful. If there's any doubt, there are always comments in other videos. We will see how to apply this ingredient we see to play the major scale, because the tonal center calls for a single major scale. How to use these fingerings to make the modal scales, which I remind you are contained in each box. Of this, there are the 7 modal scales of the major scale. If we modify a note, for example the major third that becomes minor, we play the melodic minor. So in each box, modifying only the third gets the melodic minor. So in each box there are all 7 modes of the melodic minor. If in addition to the third we also modify the 6th, we get the harmonic minor. So all the boxes will have the harmonic minor, all modes of the harmonic minor. In short, it's a very practical approach that allows you, with a single memorization of the pattern, made very aware in the sense that you see the intervals, you can get a lot of other things, because otherwise for each thing you need to know a geometry. There are too many things, then there isn't, you get lost. So I recommend you continue with this method. So I will see you in future videos.